All right, today we're going to take a look at this story here on 9 News Australia titled Worrying Account of Chaos Inside Victoria COVID-19 Ward. And as you can see, after over 2,700 views, you've only got 37 likes. So clearly, I'm not the only person questioning the validity of this story. And they've turned the dislikes off right across the board because they were getting hammered.
Well, we've been given horrifying insight into life inside a Victorian COVID ward.
Have we? Well, we'll just see about that because we're over 2 years in now and I still haven't seen any footage from out of those wards, any legit footage. And believe me, I've been looking for it.
Erin Pearson, a journalist for The Age, spent 5 nights in hospital with the virus, and what she saw...
All right, so they've brought a journalist on to their program to tell you about her experience inside of a ward. So this should be interesting.
will shock you.
Erin joins us now from Melbourne. Erin, good morning to you. Nice to see you this morning. You described your experiences living in a third world country. What made it that bad?
Morning, Carmel. Morning, Ali. It really was the sheer chaos I think everybody felt while we were there on the ward that made us realise things were pretty dire. Even the most basic of patient care needs was going unmet.
Right now, any patient that goes into a hospital at any time of the year will tell you that that is the case inside of a hospital. Your basic needs often go unmet and you have to wait a little bit longer for your treatment, toiletries, change of bedding, everything, because you're in a hospital and you're not the only person in there. There are other people that need to be tended to.
At no fault of the nursing staff and healthcare workers who were doing their best to keep up with a broken system. But certainly when you're finding...
And I want you to note how she adds the broken system. So you've got to really listen to what's being said here because she's got a preset narrative that she's come onto the show with, and it shows when you really sit down and dissect it and think about it.
Feces and urine on the floor, and the old war veteran next to me couldn't even get blankets in the middle of the night. He was shivering. He was so...
Yeah, now I've been in hospital many times and haven't been able to get blankets when I've wanted them. And that's when they're not busy.
Cold.
Feces and urine on the floor, once again, it's not uncommon in a hospital setting. But it will be cleaned up.
Things are pretty bad.
And look, just reading your account, I mean, it is pretty harrowing. And when that war veteran you're talking about, you were there for 5 days and you was never showered.
All right, so let's have a look at the photos that they're showing us here. And let's just examine it a bit closer. All right, so this is the scene that supposedly looks like it just come out of a third world country. So you've got a toilet brush strewn across the floor, and you've got 1, 2, 3 bits of toilet paper. All right. Not exactly chaotic scenes, but they flash these photos and images across the screen quickly so that you can't actually take a look at it and have a real good think about what you're being shown.
Showered in that period of time because, as you say, the nurses are so stretched, they don't have time to do that. They're just basically trying to keep people as well as they can and out of ICU. Was it what you were expecting, and just how scary did you find it?
I think I'm someone who's unfortunately spent quite, a bit of time in hospital over my life, and I've seen pretty stretched resources. So that's not something that was new to me. What was new to me was the fact that we couldn't even get that basic level of level of care. We were running out of toilet paper that would go, a day without being replaced. There was no cups for people to drink water from to take their medication. And it just seems like a real lack of communication between what was going on the COVID ward and maybe other parts of the hospital, leaving a lot of really young and junior trainee staff to take on the workload of I guess, what more experienced.
Right, now, what she just stated there, does that sound like a patient who has just come out of a ward? Or does that sound like someone trying to sell you the exact same narrative that the newspaper that she works for is trying to sell you, and that the television show that she's on is trying to sell you?
Nurses would traditionally be doing.
Look, there's no one. I don't care who you are, no matter what age, no matter.
And you get the customary photo, which they all put up. It's just the one photo of them laying in bed. You never get any footage from inside the ward, any recorded footage. It's always the same photo.
No matter how fit and healthy you are, who's not a little nervous about getting COVID and maybe ending up in hospital, you can't help but think about it.
That's a lie, Cole, because there's a lot of people that don't think about it, that aren't worried about it, and they don't watch shows like this that try to enforce it onto them.
Right, but when you're in there, how are doctors and nurses with all that pressure?
They were rattled. They were really, really rattled. I don't think I've ever heard the word sorry so much in my whole life, and your heart really goes out to them. But at the same time, when you're left feeling unsafe and scared about the situation.
So they were rattled. So these are people that come into their job every day, that know what they're doing, yet they were rattled. That's all she can come up with, is that they were rattled. So they weren't calm and professional in doing their job. They were rattled. Yeah, okay.
Situation that's going on around you, that's when you know that you need to speak up and say something and try and shed a bit of a light on what's going on in there. Patients aren't allowed in COVID, visitors, aren't allowed in COVID wards. So you don't have that level of eyes and ears for those that are really sick.
Yeah, that's right. We're not allowed in the wards, just like we don't know anyone with the virus other than people who have caught the common flu, and they've been convinced that it's this deadly virus because they've been watching the news for 2 years straight that's telling them it's a deadly virus, and we can't get any footage from out of the wards in over 2 years.
And I sort of felt like people needed to have a bit of an insight on how bad it was. And, nursing staff urgently need extra boots on the ground. They urgently need extra levels of support because it's beyond broken.
And I think this is the problem we have. It is all this mixed messaging, and we hear from you that's a first-hand account of what you saw inside a COVID ward, yet we keep hearing our politicians say the system is coping. I mean, do you think our politicians just don't quite understand? I mean, how is it that you've got these sort of different views of what's taking place inside these wards?
I've questioned that quite a bit, actually, and I've had a lot of nursing staff reach out to me since the story ran in The Age about what I'd been through. And
Okay, so you've had a lot of nursing staff reach out to you. So these are the same nursing staff that are ran off their feet, busy, but they've got time to reach out to you. And how did they reach out to you? Because you're not exactly easy to find on the internet. You've got your Twitter account, you've got your LinkedIn account, but how did they reach out to you? And can you show receipts for how they've reached out to you? And why would they reach out to you? Because you're just a patient. You're just one of the many. So why are they reaching out to you?
And they'd said to me, we've had a system that's been broken for a long time, stretched for a long time, but this COVID situation has added a whole extra level of pressure. And I think they're really frustrated that, our governments have had almost 2 years to really bolster the resources that we have, or come up with A, B and C plans of what to do when resources are so stretched, and they just feel like they're being left on their own to do a job that is incredibly, incredibly difficult.
We appreciate you coming on today. I wonder if I can ask a personal question and in relation to COVID and your response to.
And I want you to listen to this here because this is another reason that you know it's scripted. So she's come on to tell you about her experience inside of the COVID ward. And then Kyle says to her, I wonder if I can ask you a personal question about your experience inside of the ward. Yeah, that's exactly why she's on your program. But you're saying that to give the viewer the impression at home that this isn't a scripted interview.
To it. When did you feel like you had to go to hospital and be admitted, and what was that process like? Because I think there's a fundamental fear out there too that when people get COVID, they're going to end up in hospital, and how's that all going to go? So,
look, I think we'll finish this video up here. Now, I'm not saying that this individual here on the right hasn't got ill. I believe that she has gotten ill, just like I believe a lot of people have gotten ill with the common flu. And then you've got these newscasters, all right, casting spells on the population, convincing them that they've got what would once always be considered as the common flu that is now labelled as this virus that they've been telling you about for 2 years in order to get that juice inside of you. So we'll just quickly, before I finish this video, we'll just have a look at the images that they flash across the screen, because this is their proof of chaotic scenes. So you've got an unmade bed. Right. So we'll go back here.
We're talking about you were there for 5.
And you've got a toilet here with 3 pieces of toilet paper and a toilet brush. All right, that looks staged to me, that photo. And just like this interview here looks staged.